Big breaking news coming to you top of the hour at 8 a.m. Former Indian captain Sourav Ganguly is all set to be the next BCCI chief. It was a close contest between Ganguly and Brijesh Patel, but according to sources, Ganguly managed to seal the spot after hectic consultations last night. Union Home Minister Amit Shah's son Jay Shah will be the new secretary, while Arun Dhumal will be the new treasurer. Dhumal is the younger brother of MOS Finance and former BCCI President Anurag Thakur. Let me go across to Karishma Singh first to get a quick update on all the events that has unfolded. The whole of yesterday culminated midnight into this big decision that we are talking about right now. Karishma, over to you. What tipped the balance in favor of Sourav Ganguly for the longest time? Brijesh Patel seemed to be the front runner to a lot of people.
Well, yes, absolutely. You are right, Afrida. Brijesh Patel was the front runner for the longest time, but it was the quintessential midnight drama that turned tables in favor of former India captain Sourav Ganguly, and he is all set to be the president of the BCCI after 33 months of the working of the Committee of Administrators. And what we are given to understand is that there was stiff resistance from some of the state association representatives against Brijesh Patel, I beg your pardon, and that worked in Sourav Ganguly's favor. And remember, Sourav Ganguly will be at the helm only for a maximum of 10 months because he will have to go in the mandatory cooling off period, having spent 6 years in power. And that is why this was sorted out between Sourav Ganguly and Brijesh Patel. And Brijesh Patel, who is touted to be N. Srinivasan's man, is likely to be the IPL chairman when all of these nominations are filed today in Mumbai. So the stage is set for the former India captain, who has led India to many historic wins, to actually set BCCI straight off the field now, because remember, BCCI has not had a working functionary since 2017, and it is more than 2 years after which there will be a proper BCCI office bearer who will put BCCI into function after a long gap since January 2017, and Sourav Ganguly is all set to take position at the helm.
All right. I have on the phone line Vinay Tiwari, managing editor of Mirna, also joining us to give us a better perspective and to help us decode the entire state of affairs, the developments that took place overnight. Vinay, good morning. If you can help us understand the entire background, the dramatic turn of events, and this is a high-stake battle, let's make no mistake about it. It's the coveted position of the BCCI chief that we are talking about. The decision to the unanimous decision, as we are learning as of now, that he's become a consensus candidate. From your understanding, what exactly led to this dramatic turn of events, Vinay?
Well, I can tell you, Afri, that the elections of the BCCI chief certainly have turned out to be far more engaging and interesting than what's happening in Maharashtra and Haryana currently. Much more keenly contested elections, much bigger drama, much greater suspense over who's likely to lift up the post.
Yes.
But much like everything else in cricket, Afrida, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Remember, the need for doing this election, or the so-called election, was there because the Committee of Administrators had to give way to a new formally appointed president and a structure in the BCCI, which has not been so for the last many months, and has led to a lot of criticism. And one of the ostensible reasons for carrying out reforms in the BCCI was to remove the political involvement and the dual role that politicians held while managing their political affairs as well as cricket. But as you can see in this case, the involvement of politicians behind the scenes has been as intense, if not more, than what has happened in the past. And the reason I say so is that, I mean, Indian cricket has always had politicians as administrators. You know, this NKP Salve, Ranbir Mahendra, Sharad Pawar, all of them have ruled. But now you have a situation where obviously because of the Supreme Court order, you can't have a politician directly heading a BCCI or its body. You certainly have their own backers. Mr. Srinivasan was backing Brijesh Patel's candidature intensely till midnight last night. And Mr. Ganguly's candidature was, of course, being brokered by Anurag Thakur. And Anurag Thakur, if you remember, is now a powerful Minister of State of Finance at home. And it is Anurag Thakur's role which ultimately proved to be the clincher. One other thing, Afrida, which is very interesting in this, which sources are telling us, is one of the sticking points late last night was the BJP's desire to have Sourav Ganguly campaign in the West Bengal elections, because remember, it's a very high-pitched elections that is about to happen in the state next year, early 2021. And the BJP is not leaving any stone unturned to ensure that all big names that you can imagine from the state of Bengal are on their side. That was one of the points that was discussed in the negotiations that happened. We don't know whether Mr. Ganguly has agreed to that or not, but we certainly know that that's one issue that came up. And the presence of Jay Shah, who's the son of Amit Shah, who's a very powerful Home Minister, means that there is going to be that oversight over the BCCI in terms of political strength that you have in the country, Frida.
Right, Vinay. So just picking from what you just said, so one of the major points that you're making here is that a political involvement behind the scenes is a big reality staring at our face. So do you think that goes against the interest of cricket? Because like you said, what about the much touted reforms in Indian cricket? Does this in a way negate the fact that these reforms are just probably proposed on paper, but it's far from reality, or rather when it comes to real battle of things, these lobbies is what works? Because you're telling us that Anurag Thakur's role ultimately, his brokering is what worked in Sourav Ganguly's favor?
Yes, no, look, on merit, there can be no doubt that Sourav Ganguly is perhaps the best guy to head BCCI. I mean, there is absolutely no question about that. He is the president of Cricketers Union of Bengal. And I think everybody agrees that he has turned that state around in many ways in cricket administration. Eden Gardens today is by far the most well-equipped and perhaps the best managed stadium. So there is no question on the merit of Sourav as the president of BCCI. I think the larger question being that the alternate that was put in place by the Supreme Court's Lodha Committee's recommendation perhaps proved to be so disastrous that actually now in hindsight people have started believing that maybe the older system was better. And that's made the situation rather peculiar, because remember, the Supreme Court was very upset about the political involvement and politicians clinging on to the post for very, very long. But the alternate that came in the form of the COA actually, many believe, has taken Indian cricket back by almost a decade or so, because they've had a very poor administrative run. They were accused of not understanding cricket and its nuances. And a lot of things have happened which perhaps are not the way that they should be done. So I don't question Mr. Ganguly's appointment as the president, but I can tell you that behind the scenes, just for one instance, Frida, Saturday and Jay Patel had met Amit Shah in Delhi on this issue. And that should tell you how high the stakes are in India on who leads Indian cricket administration. Because if you have the country's home minister meeting potential candidates, it obviously means it's as high a stake a game as perhaps any state election, or perhaps even elections of a bigger level. So all I'm trying to suggest is that there is cricket and politics in India will always go together. That's never going to change, irrespective of what the Lodha Committee may have said or wanted to happen. Maybe that's for the better, but the fact of the matter is that these two are inseparable, and they will perhaps now never go away.
Absolutely. So, Vinay, thanks very much for that perspective. Not questioning the merit of Sourav Ganguly, but yes, of course, highlighting the important points about how these decisions have come about, primarily because of the kind of hectic consultation and lobbying among powerful people in politics. Thanks very much, Vinay, for giving us an understanding.